Hi there, my name is Ash and I like to draw. But do you know what else I like? Dragon Quest! Ah yes, Dragon Quest. In the West it may be Final Fantasy that comes to mind first when you think of iconic RPG franchises, but even that would be nothing if it wasn't for Dragon Quest. First released in Japan in 1986 and initially known as Dragon Warrior everywhere else, Dragon Quest basically invented everything we think of today when it comes to JRPGs. Turn-based battles, job systems, monster catching, you name it, and Dragon Quest is where it started, or at least where it was first refined. No, I'm serious. No matter what your favorite JRPG is, it probably wouldn't have existed if not for Dragon Quest. While initially ignored, Dragon Quest has gained a surge in popularity outside of Japan in modern day, and the series is still going strong, with countless spin-offs, ports, and remakes being released all the time. And if you ask me, one of the main reasons for this franchise's longevity is definitely the amazing character designs done by the late great Akira Toriyama, known for things like Dragon Ball, Dr. Slump, Sandland, and many short manga. Every character, every monster, every ultimate villain all came from his incredibly creative mind, and that's what I want to dive into today. Having played some version or another of every mainline game in the series, except for 10 for obvious reasons, I thought it would be fun to draw some of these beasties that I've fought so many of over the years. So I've chosen 5 monsters to draw, with the trick being that each one is gonna look a little bit bigger and meaner than the last one, so we can really see our imaginary hero growing stronger as the adventure carries on. Let's get drawing. To start things off, we're gonna go with a small, goofy little guy, the Wax Murderer, who, despite the name, is wielding a sword. Huh. There are plenty of old ruins and abandoned castles in Dragon Quest, so let's just assume that one of our hero's first quest is to fetch a magical item from the depths of some kind of haunted mansion. You know, kinda like that ghost hunt in Dragon Quest V that Bianca never shuts the heck up about. Strictly speaking, there isn't much to him design-wise. He's just a ticked-off little candle ready to chop you up, hence the amazing punny name. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Dragon Quest, silly dad joke level puns like that are kind of the franchise's thing, at least in the English translations. And it is just as charming as it is groan-inducing. I wanted our little guy to be full of energy, so I drew him leaping into action, like he's just so excited to be slicing up some adventurers. Too bad he's gotta get his tiny little candle butt kicked. In retrospect, I did kinda mess this pose up since most of the sword is hidden behind his body, but oh well, you still get the basic idea. Add a couple globs of stray candle wax to imply some motion, and there he is, a wicked little wax murderer ready to scrap. Okay, I'm gonna be totally honest here. The main reason I drew this one is because I kind of doodled him for fun one day, and I just ended up liking the sketch so much that I could not finish him. Because, other than that, there really isn't much to say about this monster. I mean, you hear a name like Zumeanie, and you know exactly what you're gonna get. It's just a zucchini running at you with a wide, happy grin as it thinks about impaling you with a spear. If I remember correctly, this guy and his color variations first showed up in Dragon Quest IX, and are some of the very first enemies you fight in that game. Truth be told, 9 isn't exactly one of the best games in the series, even if I do like the base premise of essentially playing as a fallen angel, but I can't lie, these guys are weirdly cute in their own goofy little way. And maybe they're found in the garden of that haunted mansion I mentioned earlier? I don't know, I'm just spitballing. But yeah, there's not a lot to talk about here. He's just a silly little guy, and I could not finish him once I saw my own sketch. I almost forgot to give him his spots though. That would have been a problem. Now this next one was actually suggested by viewers during a live art stream and drawn from scratch after I posted a bunch of references of Dragon Quest monsters and asked the people watching to pick one. Now try to imagine my surprise when they picked the one that's basically just an anteater. Anteaters are probably some of the silliest looking animals on the planet next to the platypus. I mean, seriously, they look like dopey dogs walking around with garden hoses attached to their faces. The thing is, if you do a bit of reading on them, you'll find out that these guys are actually kinda huge. The giant anteater can grow to nearly 6 feet long, and their claws are no joke. There are even a few documented cases of giant anteaters fatally wounding people, so they do kinda make sense as monsters. So with this one, the Antgobbler as it's called in-game, I decided to emphasize the claws and push a bit of foreshortening. I also just had to keep the no time for your nonsense expression it has in the original art. Like it's just tired of you before the fight even begins, and it's looking to end the fight with one powerful swipe. The tongue is a great prop too. Even if the creature itself is largely stationary in your drawing, you can really use a long, thin limb or accessory like this to imply some motion in the piece. I like to imagine this guy as a surprise encounter, like you just finished a quest, entered a new area, this guy shows up as the first random encounter, and he turns out to be a way tougher fight than you expected. Like the game's just stopped messing around. He certainly has that attitude to him. And just like that, we've got an Antgobbler as well. Now so far every monster we've drawn has been on the ground, so let's throw in a flying one just to keep things interesting. Naturally, there's a lot of them in Dragon Quest, from insects to birds to, you know, actual dragons. I didn't quite want to do a dragon yet, but I went for something that was kind of dragon adjacent. So I decided to go with the Wormbat. There's just something really fun to me about this guy. I couldn't really tell you whether it's the simplicity of the wing design and the nice orange and green color palette, or if it's the weird old man lizard face that kind of looks like Babidi from Dragon Ball Z that does it for me. But either way, he just looks like a threat. Now, I think the in-game implication is that this monster isn't actually all that big, but I like to imagine it as some kind of mini-boss. Something that swoops down from the skies right as the heroes reach the top of a mountain, or some kind of tall tower or dungeon or whatever. Once again, we have a long tongue, which is brilliantly also given its own color so it can stick out from the design, that we can use to imply some motion and intent, especially once we add a little bit of drool. This thing is hungry, and the party looks positively scrumptious. Time to chow down! Now obviously, as my friend John kept ragging at me about during the art stream, I can't very well draw Dragon Quest monsters without drawing at least one dragon. I mean, it's right there in the title after all. But possible hot take here, I tend to find classical dragons kinda boring? Okay, that's an oversimplification. Dragons are awesome, but the completely classic Western dragon design we all think of first, yeah, I don't know, I just find it too basic. So I tend to like when dragons get a little more weird and creative, and I'm much more interested in drawing one that looks a little out of the ordinary. And thankfully, Toriyama was no slouch when it came to drawing weird dragons. Obviously, there's plenty of iconic classic dragons in the game, like the Dragon Lord and the Arboreal Serpent, but then you get stuff like the Great Argon Lizards, the Worms, and the Gasbacker. Oh god! Of all these though, one of my favorites has to be the Nightclubber. Just a big, mean-looking bastard with a huge club, ready to knock your block off. There's a reason he was first introduced as a boss in Dragon Quest IV by the name of Oh dear. Yeah, can't say that on a family-friendly channel. Now, I didn't want him just standing there, so I figured I'd try to give him an attack pose and imply his weight by having him barely staying upright on one leg. Kind of like he could fall over at any moment. Or like he could bring down that club and bash your head in. One of the more fun parts of drawing him was the open maw, like he's screeching as he attacks. It was a bit of a challenge to figure out exactly how it would look, and it might have come at the expense of drawing some more evil-looking eyes, but hey, it all works out. Honestly, I always thought of him as more of a demon or something, but look at that. He's right there on the Dragon family list of monsters. So suck it, John. He counts. I actually far prefer the blue coloring of his original boss look, and there isn't a lot of blue in our monster so far, so I could have gone with that. But red feels a little more traditional and makes him look more like a big scary devil you would face at the end of your journey. The evil being that kidnapped the princess. The villain that stole the magical artifact that will let him rule the world. You get the idea. And that's it. 5 monstrous beings from the tiny little mook to the big bad, chronicling the adventures of one little plucky band of heroes. Now, I like to think I did pretty well on these, but I want to hear what you think. Which one of these 5 was your favorite? Do you have another favorite Dragon Quest monster? Is there one you wish I'd drawn instead? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more art videos in the future. Until then, all I can say is, keep adventuring, and I'll see you there. Bye bye.